Hang on.
I was gonna say, what is it? We
Let's
got
go 7.
a time hold? Sort of like that, so we get a time hold.
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the local planning agency. This is gonna be for the meeting of December 13, 2022. We're gonna do the invocation, pledge allegiance. Everybody please stand. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, please bless us tonight as we do the work of the city, Lord. Please bless all of our citizens, all of our first responders, and our military throughout the world, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chair Lumnick,
Here.
Vice Chair Kennedy is absent. Member Mellon,
Present.
Member Williams,
Present.
Member Forges,
Present.
Member Keller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Can I get a approval for the minutes of the November 8th meeting?
So move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have an approval by Member Williams and a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. No old business. New business. We have special exception request for communications tower use located at Ocoee Oaks United Methodist Church, 201 South Clark Road. This is project 0622SE029. Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. So the issue before the Planning and Zoning Commission this evening is to whether or not to recommend approval for an application for a special exception for the use of a portion of the property located at 201 South Clark for an innovative communications tower facility. This is a general location of the sites in the northeast corner. The site itself is 12.5 acres, but the lease area is approximately 3,500 square feet. The property originally, when the application came in, had one zoning district of A1, City A1. Since that time, this portion of the church property has been rezoned to R1A. And that occurred in October of this year. There is an existing tower proximate to the church site that's at the county's water tower site. And the new tower is needed due to the county decommissioning the existing water tower and then demolishing the water tower. In our table 5-1 uses table, cell towers aren't located to just any particular zoning district. It refers you to section 5-19. So the entirety of the review of this tower is based on that section in the code. So again, this is the location of the tower. This is the surrounding land zoning districts and the surrounding future land use, all low density residential except for the institutional to the southwest. In section 5-19, at the very end of Article 5, there is a map, and in that map, it's the 3 areas for communication facilities. Area 1, as you can see in this map, is the majority of the city, and this tower location is in Area 1. The applicant is Diamond Communications. In Area 1, there's 3 types of towers that are allowed. A building-mounted one, which has a max height of 50 feet. A camouflage tower, which has a max height of 75 feet. Innovative tower has a max height of 125 feet. By requirements of 5-19, an innovative tower requires a special exception approval. And I've listed there the specific code references that are specific to towers in general plus innovative towers specifically. Because the special exception is already a public hearing, we are including in this special exception is a height request to go to 135 feet. So that will be part of the special exception approval to go to a height of 135 instead of 125. So just a quick comparison, the existing tower on the county water tower is 145 feet. And what they're asking for is 135. In terms of carriers, the current water tower location has 2 carriers. This project would provide for 4 carriers. And as I mentioned, the existing tower is on top of the water tower. And for their proposed tower, they've submitted two plan types. One is a monopine, and the second one is a bell tower. So the site plan on the bottom of this slide, you see the leased area for access, as well as the leased area for the tower facility itself. The outside of the fence security area will be parking. And the red line is a general delineation of where the new rezoning happened. So this side is R1A, and then this side will stay as A1, so that, the church can stay compliant. This graphic shows the existing water tower. As you can see here, the height is 145 feet at the very, very top point. And then the monopine is at 135 feet. So the design, as far as eagle nesting, security, landscaping, all those technical site plan related things remain the same between the two design types. It's just this is a monopine tower. Using the scale that was provided here, this is the 60-foot mark. If you can imagine, this fence without the barbed wire is 6 feet. So at the top of this barbed wire is 8 feet. So this is 60 feet, and then I superimposed a pine tree and I stretched it up to about 80 feet. So according to the University of Florida's Florida-friendly guidelines, an 80-foot tree would essentially be at this height compared to the monopine tower. So this graphic is the same thing, but it shows the bell tower design. Again, the pine tree at 80 feet. I think one distinction between the pine tower and this tower is that this tower can be illuminated if the city would like for it to be, or it could not be illuminated, so they're prepared to do either. So the DRC met on this item and recommended approval subject to two conditions. One is that we are recommending the bell tower design because aesthetically it fits more into the surrounding environment. It's a religious institutional use on the existing property now. There aren't a lot of high or tall trees in the area, so it makes sense to us to have that tower there instead of a tree. The landscape plan just needs to be revised in the planting schedule to reflect a canopy tree type, and staff is recommending a condition that the canopy tree be of an evergreen variety so that it maintains its green, its leaves throughout the year instead of having leaves fall. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval for the special exception use for the use of a portion of the South Clark property for an 135-foot innovative communications tower facility with those two conditions, that is a bell tower design and for the evergreen canopy trees. And the applicant team also has a presentation that they'd like to give as well.
Thank you very much. This should be a pretty easy one, but I have a couple questions for staff quick. And this is not into regards to this, but I just want to make sure. So we've looked at a project on the backside of that property once before, and I believe some of the questions on that property were about where maybe a second entrance may or may not go, or may be talked about. And I was under the understanding that that pumpkin patch might have been where it would have gone, but it sounds like now that's where this tower's gonna go.
We had a meeting, staff convened a meeting between the church and the applicant for the tower, as well as the applicant for the residential subdivision, where we discussed and explained to the church that you have two applicants for the subdivision. There was a concern at the rezoning with respect to a secondary access onto Clark. Their engineer is trying to figure out a way to design that. So they may have to do some adjustments. They're still not thrilled about having a secondary access, but we did explain to them that that might result in a subdivision with fewer than the 18 lots that they had asked, that they initially proposed.
Has that project gone to the second part of the city council yet?
The rezoning has been approved. but they have not submitted formally for a preliminary subdivision plan.
Okay, anybody else?
I do have one question, and I'm not sure who to ask of it. So I'll ask it to the city, and then if it's the applicant who needs to answer. I noticed that ball court is fairly close. Is there going to be any harmful effects having the tower that close to that ball court? And that, again, like I said, it may be more of an applicant question, but
They've submitted a certified document as far as the drop zone. I believe it's 60 feet. Is it 60 feet or 90 feet drop zone? So if the tower were to collapse, it will be designed to just fall within a certain distance from the base of the tower. And I believe that number is either 60 or 90 feet.
I guess I was also concerned more about any electronic issues that they could put down to people on that court. You know, I look at and use this one as an example, but the windmills, for example, those tall windmills, what people don't seem to realize is that within a certain distance, people who get motion sick have issues. So I'm just wondering, same type of thing, is there anything with the electric pulses, anything with anything that could affect having a ball court that close? Does the church need to move their ball court, I guess, is more my question. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right, we'll save that for the applicant when
Yeah.
we come up.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? All right, I'm gonna open up to the public hearing. I'm gonna let, we have a citizen, we're gonna let him go first, and then we'll let, sorry, you got it. So, ma'am, applicant, all right. We're gonna let the applicant go first, actually, because that's what the lawyer tells me I have to do, and
Yeah,
she's
they gotta present their
Yeah,
testimony.
come on up.
And they get a chance to object, or
Yep.
respond to the objections, if there are.
understandable. Just state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, I'm Matanaya John, 935 Main Street, Suite C4, Safety Harbor, Florida, 34695. And I'm appearing tonight on behalf of Diamond Communications, as well as Verizon Wireless and AT&T, for the relocation tower to be located at 201 South or North Clark on the Ocoee Oaks UMC Church campus. Before I go into my presentation, just to answer a couple questions. Let me switch back to that page. So with the location of the property, it's been rather carefully placed, so that way it preserves the pumpkin patch, since the church does use that as an outreach space to the general community. But we've also adjusted the footprint of the equipment compound at the base and shifted it south from the original plan to give the landlord, to give the church and the developer an envelope to put an access in there should they be able to come to an agreement. So we're not doing anything to infringe on the ability to create a secondary access should they be able to make that work from an engineering standpoint. Is that how? Okay. As far as safety of the tower, it'll be designed with a 60-foot fall zone radius, just to tie off that part. And this is proven technology. It's been used, the Department of Transportation uses it for like interstates and stuff. The example that I always draw upon is when Hurricane Charlie came through and up Kings Highway on I-75 in Charlotte County, because that's my memory since I grew up down in Sarasota. You know, at that exit, all of the lampposts were folded over upon themselves, those really tall interstate ones. That's fall zone technology in place, and it's basically the reverse of Archimedes' principle. You make the lever shorter, and it stays in place. As far as RF emissions, this is a careful area to be treading in because there is a federal preemption where it says that local governments can't make decisions to approve or deny based upon any real or perceived environmental effects of RF emissions. What I can confirm to you is that they will stay, when you're looking at your power levels, right, just from having worked in this, your typical 4-bulb drop ceiling fluorescent light that you've had in offices for years gives you more energy per square inch of your skin than you would see from these antennas. Okay. But they will maintain the facility in compliance with FCC rules and regulations. All right, so let me get into my presentation proper, and I'll move quickly since I don't want to chew up too much of your night. I normally am a longer presentation for educational purposes, so if I sound rushed, it's that. Anyways, so as you heard, we're on a parcel with A1 zoning for our portion. You have the R1A. In the area that's being developed, the developer is aware of this project, and there has been a degree of coordination there. There's no problems between the developer and the church and Diamond. Anyways, we have residential low 2, and we are requesting a special exception to allow a 135-foot tall bell tower, or 35-foot tall communication tower on the property. We have presented you 2 development options. One is the bell tower format, which staff has very clearly explained how that fits with the church campus. Basically, it'll be painted white to match the church building. It will have crosses. It's proposed with a carillon, so that way it chimes during the day. And then it will be uplighted unless we're told not to, is basically the plan. On the other hand, there is the monopine style communication tower, and that's, I got ahead of myself because I'm trying to cut short. Just to orient you real quick, this is an aerial showing the area around the church. The orange arrow points to the water tower. The purple arrow points to our parent parcel. Running through the middle, north and south, is Clark Road. Running through the middle, left to right, east and west, is White Road. In all the maps I show you tonight, up will be north. This is just a closer view. You can see the arrow pointing at the water tower, and if you look real closely, there is an equipment compound down there where the cellular equipment, base equipment is. And then we have the arrow pointed over towards the pumpkin patch area. And then as you get closer, again, this is just a closer view. This is your zoning map, and this is your future land use map. There is the water tower parcel to the south of us, and then you have an electrical substation to the south of us. Communication towers are allowable on this property through the special exception process. You heard that we are asking for an additional 10 feet of height over the innovative cap because we're trying to emulate the co-locations that are there already. So cellular towers are very height specific, and they're inherently local. If you take, so for example, I grew up in an AM/FM radio station, Oldies 106. My father was a ad salesman. And from there, it could reach 40 miles south to Venice and all the way up to St. Petersburg with one tower because it was sending out music one direction and it was very high power. Cell towers are very low power and they have to maintain two-way communications and they have to talk with devices that are inherently low power. So they inherently cover a very small area, much smaller than an AM/FM radio station. And as you cut down the height, the smaller that area gets. And when you do that, you create a need for additional towers. And I'll show you in a minute with AT&T's propagation. They gave me an example. But basically, the more you shorten a tower, the more things like trees or roofs and stuff block the signal because you're trying to send signal out sideways. It's almost like as if you're trying to paint a stucco wall with like a paint gun, and instead of going at it straight or even at this angle, you're trying to go at it real sideways. There'd be lots of spots where you would not get paint. All right. So we presented both the bell tower and the monopine design, and you see that this is an example of a monopine, just that way you have both. And they're both engineered towers. They're both designed to the hurricane standards here. Those branches are designed to flex in the breeze. They have foliage on them. The antennas go inside foliage-covered stalks and are nestled in the canopy. The reason that we presented this to you, so that way the PZC and the City Commission just have this option in their record, is in case you choose or feel that in case you choose to go this route, you just have flexibility here. At the end of the day, a monopine is less bulk than a bell tower, even though it's a taller tree. So the trade-off is that you go from a structure that looks like it matches the church campus to a tree that's, taller than what's immediately at its base. But when you get to the residential areas, given the canopy throughout the residential areas, it contextually makes sense because it's just sticking up a little bit over, and you can see that in the photo simulations. Again, it's a question of trade-offs. This is a bell tower style communication tower. It's just an example. This one has clapboards on it. The one that would be put up would likely have panels meant to look like they're stuccoed, essentially. And they'll be painted white to match the church. This is our site plan that you have in the record. And again, we provide multiples of tower height to the existing residential. To the south, we provide the 50-foot fall zone radius, so it's completely contained on the parent parcel, and we are positioned 217 feet from the western property line. It's a balance there with trying to preserve that pumpkin patch space.
Can I ask you a quick question about this?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm looking at you have the 30-foot, the 30-foot easement
Yes, sir.
where I assume your lines are coming in from the street. So if they were to put something, a driveway or whatnot, how would it get across your easement?
So the access easement is non-exclusive. If the church chose to reconfigure the property, basically the lease allows that to be reconfigured, and the access just reroutes to whatever the final development layout of access in the property works. Essentially, if they put an access road through there, we just tap into that instead. Did I give you a $5 answer to a $1 question?
Kinda.
I'm sorry. We
Bosses.
flex.
My translator's walking up right now.
Oh my goodness.
Just Mike Rimmer, Development Services Director. I just want to state that with the rezoning, we asked to go a little above and beyond.
Yep.
It was a straight rezoning. We do not have a subdivision in front of us. It may not ever come in. We have a lot of rezonings that nothing happens. So just want to state, that was just to give an idea of what could happen. And until we receive an application under that quasi-judicial process, there is no subdivision.
Totally understand,
Gotcha.
and I don't think that's gonna stop us from doing anything tonight. I just wanna make
Okay.
sure I'm
All right, cool.
really figuring out what's what. Thank you.
Understood.
Sorry to interrupt you.
So when that application, should it come in, there's flexibility there. All right. So this is the monopine elevation that we showed you. And again, the canopy would start 60 feet, extend to the top. At the top is the code required bird nesting platform. This would be designed to support up to 4 carriers. Initially, we have 2 carriers that are signed up, and that is Verizon, who currently has antennas on the water tower, and then also AT&T, who is introducing new service to the area. T-Mobile hasn't signed any paperwork, so I can't show them on my plans, and I don't have RF propagations for them, but we're building a tower here, and their practice is that they don't provide RF support unless they're the first carrier. Anyways, this is the bell tower design. Again, it's a question of trade-offs. Structure, tree, what angles do you want to make things make more sense? These are our photo simulations. Again, this is from Clark Road looking northeast. This is the bell tower. This is the monopole. This is from Rachel's Ridge Loop looking south. You can see the bell tower. You can see the monopine. Robbins Glen Road looking southwest, bell tower, and then your tree. And then you have Robbins Glen Road looking west, bell tower, and you can see that foliage in the midground buffers the lower portion, and here foliage in the midground blocks it completely, or is able to block it completely, but the base is all. So if you went with the tree design, it would look like canopy extending from canopy. And then to our south off of White. And again, and you can see the water towers immediately to our left there, and you can see it has those antennas up on it. And then this is from the south side of White Road. This is the notice of deactivation that was first received. And basically last year, ATC, which is the company that manages the water tower for the county. The county doesn't directly run it as a cell tower. They have a cell tower company handle it for them. Said next year, this is shutting down. Candidly, they've been working, there's been attempts to replace this from the cellular perspective and get out of the way of the county's demolition of this since 2017, off and on. They've dragged their heels on it. They got a year extension. They're continuing to drag their heels to try to stay on there as long as possible, because for Verizon and T-Mobile, should the water tower come down before the replacement tower is constructed, you have an area, you have a portion of the city that just loses coverage. It's gone. And that's the emergent nature of this replacement. We're not adding something new. We're not adding something new. We are upgrading to the modern technology, but we're trying to keep in place what's already there. This is Verizon's RF package that you have in the record. And this is just showing the location of their towers relative to this, and you can see that they're kind of spread out. So you got stuff that's like 1.6 miles away to the southeast. You've got 1.76 to the northeast. So it's not like there's a tower that's close by. It will create a hole if it goes away. The logo and the marker in the middle with the yellow circle is the water tower site. You have existing Verizon coverage, and in the approximate middle is the water tower location. Green is reliable, red's unreliable. And then this is what it would look like without the replacement tower. Verizon pulled the data on that portion of the city. If it goes offline, they'll lose coverage for over an area with 21,639 pops with 700 connections per peak active hour. Next is AT&T. They'll be establishing new service in the area. This is a map just showing all of AT&T's installations in the area, and you can see they exist off to the west side of Ocoee, over towards where we are. They exist to the east of Ocoee. You can see all those marks over there, particularly the triangle marks are towers. And then we are the non-colored mark inside the yellow box in the approximate middle. AT&T takes and runs their colors in reverse because engineers love to be ornery. So for them, strong, reliable coverage is red and green is weak. And you can see that there's a base layer of coverage in the area, but the reliable coverage that stays connected is missing from this area. This is the proposed coverage at 70 feet, so if you were chopped down to that code required and they were at the top. And then this is the coverage at 125, or the second spot on the tower. And the reason I included this is to illustrate just how much shortening a tower takes and reduces that footprint. And if you reduce the footprint, you create need for additional towers to make up that footprint. Lastly, I'd like to take and leave you with the 911 call statistics for Orange County, Florida. In 2021, over 89% of all 911 call statistics came from wireless numbers. So while we know that we use wireless connections for everything from calling friends and family to our Zoom call for work or school, I think this was the clearest way to show just how integral this is, and that this isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. I will spare you my analysis of the special exception factors that is in my record. I incorporated into my presentation by reference. And I also defer to staff on the proposed condition of approval for the landscaping. And should you choose to go with the bell tower option, I defer to that condition of approval as well. I would respectfully request that you recommend approval of the tower facility. And I'm available for any questions that you may have. I reserve remaining time for rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Art? Okay.
My first question is relatively simple. It's just in terms of the bell chiming.
Yes.
Who will be in control of the bell chiming schedule?
So with a system like that, it's usually just an automated system. It would be generally controlled by Diamond. Let me bring up Tom Wininsky. He's a project manager for Diamond, and he can discuss more deeply on that.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Tom. Last name is Vaneski, Wanieweski. I'm from Diamond Communications out in Short Hills, New Jersey. So to answer the question very quickly about the chimes, has what's called a knock. It's basically a system where we control all of our towers, the lighting, any alarm systems, anything goes to a central call facility. So something like this would be an automated. If it fails in any way, it sends an alarm to the knock, and then we send out a technician. If it happened to get stuck and was chiming all the time and we didn't see the alarm, we would more than likely get calls from the church and send out a tech.
Okay.
And it's a technology-based chime, so it's computers and speakers, so to simulate the sound of a bell.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not actually bells, sorry.
Yes.
They would be blowing in the breeze.
that's, leads to, that's why I was kind of starting to ask, but okay, now I understand what you're saying. Thank you. My other question is, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yes.
With the decommissioning on the tower, the cell apparatus or the tower part, the cell tower part is gonna be removed and decommissioned. But the decommissioning of the actual water tower may come much later? Is that what you're saying?
So generally, the way this works is they have us get off before they call in their demolition crews. They have to get the the tenant equipment out of the way first. It is our understanding that this will be demolished. It is the county. Every time we ask them questions, they say, we've got a committee and we'll get back with you once we make up our mind. So they're not great on specifics. But what we do know is that we have to get out of their way so they can ultimately demolish it.
Okay. And well, that answers this question, which is what's the approximate timeline when you think that the new tower will be replaced?
I have been dealing with whether to file applications for what's called cell on wheels, temporary cell towers, we call them cows, all year long. I wish we're hoping it stays long enough for us to get built. I have no clue what the county's going to do. Every time we reach out to them, they have a hard time giving us straight answers.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions for the applicant before bringing up the public? All right. I have Doug Gombin. Gomber. All right. Like the pitcher, right?
Pardon?
Like the pitcher.
Similar. Doug Gomber, I am the president of the White Hill HOA. I've been in front of you before when we were talking about Ocoee Oaks. I'm pleasure to be here, and it's unusual for me to be here, and that I'm here to say thank you for these people that have made it a little bit easier possibly for us to work with the people at Ocoee Oaks. I have been in contact with the attorney Carlos about the negotiations that they have had and the possibility of having more area on the pumpkin patch, because we've thought, and everybody I think thought, that there's gonna be a whole lot more of that taken by the cell phone tower. And with these people being a lot more agreeing to helping us out and moving that thing to the south, that's given more incentive to the church to possibly provide an access point for Ocoee Oaks to come out on Clark Road. We're hoping that they will be able to come to an agreement because, as again, like I've spoken here and at the City Commission, the big objection of my people and my homeowner association is the access that they want to use onto White Road. And if we can eliminate that, everybody's going to celebrate because, you know, God bless them, if they can build homes at $725,000 in today's market right there next to a cell tower and a power station, I'm all over that. Because even though I'm never moving, the value of my property is going to skyrocket. But I just wanted to let people know here, I approve of this. Everybody in my homeowners association is approving of this. We'd like to see the tower done because God knows we want to see that ugly water tower come down. And the day they do it, I hope we can do it like Property Brothers and go out there and start swinging hammers on the outside of that tower and take that down because that is a real eyesore. And if this is going to do what it will do, it'll help further that process, and maybe we'll get rid of that. So we are approving of this, and we're behind it. So we'd ask you to approve the exception and move forward to the City Commission.
Thank you very much. All right. And then that And at that, I'm gonna close the public hearing, because I think we're good to go. With that, does anybody else have any other questions for staff?
I don't have a question, but I got a comment.
I'm only
We'll
taking
probably
questions
get
right now.
an Orange County school before that tower comes down.
Seeing as we're not on their 10-year plan, that's gonna be kinda interesting, but okay. Yeah, I would say my personal opinion on this is the bell tower is much better. I think those tree towers are atrocious. So, and, you know, I'm normally all about raising heights, so that's fine with me as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, staff isn't requiring, the code doesn't require the chime. It's just an, it's yes or no, depending on what the city wants.
Okay. And then, on that case, I've closed the public hearing. Anybody else have any other questions?
I was just wondering about the landscaping, but given that this water tower is there, whatever comes here is gonna be much better, so it's not that important
Yeah.
with the landscaping and security, fences, anything like that around the tower.
Yes, sir. Those are the technical design requirements, that they meet all of those, other than putting in the canopy evergreens. The
Okay,
security barriers and everything is on the site plan.
okay, that's all.
Thank you. So we're not gonna, we are or are not gonna make a recommendation for either the bell tower or the tree?
The staff's recommendation is for the bell tower design, irrespective of whether or not the chime is added.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the bell tower design, not the tree design. is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
that's correct.
Great. And the landscaping, absolutely.
And the landscaping.
Okay, in that case, I'll take a motion from somebody.
I'll make that motion to recommend approval of the communications tower, special exception 0622 SE 029, with a recommendation that it goes to the bell tower
And the
and,
landscaping?
and the landscaping.
And I'll second that motion.
Hey, you get to vote
I
tonight.
get to vote tonight.
All right, we have a recommendation for approval by Member Mellon and a second by Member Keller. Any other discussion? And all those in favor? Aye? Oh, we just voted regular.
Oh, aye.
All those in favor? We're good.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. All right.
And thank you. I have been here 16 years, and this is our first new tower. And so I had done a couple in my previous job in Seminole County. So it's kind of interesting to see what is people's perception of cell towers these days. We all want the 4 bars and the 5Gs, right? But thank you, yes, for your comments, because that helps us in future towers to kind of say what the public is feeling and thinking. It'll help us. Thank you.
For sure. All right, so we're done with new business. We're gonna go to miscellaneous. We're gonna do a project status report, but I will ask Mike Rumor if he could give us an update on the exciting news that came out in the last commission meeting.
Yes, 1 second.
Yes, please.
First of all, I'll keep you in suspense. We signed off on the Starbucks up on the north end of the city, so they got its interior work to do, but the site and the building is signed off, so
That's wonderful.
it's complete. Okay, so you may have seen in the news, West Orange Times, the Growth Spotter, the Orlando Sentinel Growth Spotter, or the Orlando Business Journal, and announcements on an agreement that went to the last commission that paved the way for a developer to really dig his heels, get to work on providing what's called the Ocoee Regional Sports Complex. And this would be a 16 baseball field, full size, major league, minor league, college, little league fields within a mixed-use center with a promenade, and on the same property, the ability to fit 2 hotels, parking garages, and ancillary retail and restaurant. And the agreement that went to the commission, what it said was if you kind of meet these criteria, one of them getting the large property needed under contract, which is the Chevron property on the corner of Ocoee, Apopka, and Fuller's Crossroad. It's about 97 acres. And signing a national user to the complex that would utilize the fields 52 weekends out of the year, sometimes during the week. Then the city would, and begin the development process, the city would kick in 37 acres that we have designated as park space. It's known as the Rogers property at City Hall. It was purchased from the Rogers family. And with that, there would be a payback of that property once the facility is in operation. So what does this mean? It means that this facility would be the largest travel ball facility on the East Coast and the second in the United States. There's one being constructed in Texas, and there's a lot of them that are close. They don't have 16 fields. They'll have 8, 10 fields, 12 fields. And these fields are also all turf, and they're set up so they could be made smaller depending on the age group playing. So you could have 34 fields in operation depending on what type of tournament it is. The way many of the travel ball organizations work is they make revenue from hotel stays. So they have a mandatory stay at hotels if you're out of town. If you're local, you don't have to. And they get money off those hotel stays. And so you could have on a weekend 100 and something teams with 10 to 12 players a team, and each player bringing a family of 5. And for this national user, once that national user is signed and that announcement is made, it'll be really cool. We will be able to do a lot of planning, and a lot of things will really start to fall into place. But just generally overall, you can to get a national user like that, you've got to show what amenities, hotels, restaurants, grocery stores, laundromats are within an 8 to 10 mile radius, because they may need it sometimes 40, 50 fields. With this agreement, they also agreed with the developer to add 2 new fields to our Vignetti Park, which currently houses a temporary fire station. And so those 2 new fields would be used for Ocoee Parks and Recreation, and it would also be overflow for tournaments. Within the complex, they will be providing not only the 16 fields, which would be closed access, gated entry for the tournaments, but during the week, Ocoee Little League needs some fields. They would have the opportunity to use some of those fields. And on the weekend, if there's not, there will be a management company that runs a facility that will be coordinating with Ocoee Parks. So on a weekend, if they're not using all 16 fields, that opportunity is there. As well, there will be a multi-purpose turf field constructed, which will measure, and you'll be able to get 2 football fields out of it. That is open to the public, as well as a park, all-inclusive park. So handicap, autistic, anyone on the spectrum, it'll be open and be utilized by everyone. So this deal is, in many of the tournaments my children play travel ball, you have really nice facilities, a lot of open spaces. You've got to drive, you've got to find the closest Chick-fil-A, you got to stay in the hotel. Like, for instance, when we play at Soldiers Field in Seminole County, we stay at a hotel, because I'm not local to that. We stay at a hotel on the west side of I-4. There's a Applebee's restaurant right there. And so this facility for the developer captures the opportunity to have on the premise the prime hotel, and there will also be 2 structured parking garages. As part of this deal, the city will receive also on this property only, the 2 hotels and parking garages, a cut of each room stay and structured parking space. There is surface parking for the retail. And all that depends on the size of the hotel. We'd like to get them 200 rooms, but you've got height, you've got foot plate, you've got perception. So once we get into the design and site planning, and you guys see all this large scale site plans for this, but it gives them the opportunity to have the market for restaurants in the prime hotels on the site. But we'll need many more, as I said. And so This is a cool thing. This is a part of economic gardening. This was relationships that were forged and people that are in tune to what's going on with the TNXL Baseball Academy, the professional level, national level, that created a where's Ocoee, what's going on, there's something cool going on in Ocoee. This developer played in the National Leagues, played at UCF, is a contractor developer, and is funded. It's just, we got a couple of big things that have to happen. The property under contract and sign the national user, and then it's gonna be a big process from there. Our first step in the discussions, which took over a year, initially we were looking at just the Rogers property, a smaller scale, was infrastructure. We gotta look at Ocoee-Apopka Road. When we did the business character area, and to help not foster a proliferation of big light industrial centers, wanted to do a complete street section of Ocoee-Apopka Road, 3-lane, two wide lanes, a trail, turn lanes. This would necessitate a 4-lane divided, still having the trail on the west side, but we would need to look at 4-laning Ocoee-Apopka, redoing Fuller's Cross Road to the east at Ocoee-Apopka. It's a rural section, open swales. We need to make those lanes wider, get a turn lane in there, maybe a 4-laning, maybe a 2-lane one way, 1 lane the other. And also extension of Worst Road. So there's road improvements that need to be done. A lot of utility expansion, upsizing in this area that will benefit the area. So there's a lot of work to do. There is a program to be opened by the end of 2025, be operational, at which time the city would be receiving not only the payment for the property at about $200,000 an acre over the 10 years, but we would also get continued residual revenue based off the hotel and parking garage stays. And again, that amount is primarily based on the size and number of spaces, the number of rooms that ends up getting put in place. So hope the developer is working this week with the national user, hope to sign them up, and he would, once he gets it signed, he'll be making that announcement, and then we just got another big item to get to work on, and then it's a go from there.
That's great. Yeah, I'm familiar with these in the town called Sandusky, Ohio, where my mother's side of the family is from. They have one of these projects that Cedar Point built. Same exact thing. It's gorgeous. It's a lot of space. I think they're talking about a splash pad too, maybe?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, within that, on the northern end along Fuller's Cross Road, you would have the multi-purpose field, the park, and the splash pad area. And then you have this nice promenade, walkable road, and then so the fields would be on the west side of the property, behind where the Montessori school is, and then the commercial and all that would be along Ocoee-Apopka Road.
Well, I want to congratulate you guys first, because we hear a lot of people talk around the city and on Facebook and whatnot that the city never thinks about infrastructure, and to have, Ocoee-Apopka Road widened is amazing.
It's gonna be a conversation with Orange County, it's their road. But this brings, in sort of, people will say, well, Ocoee wants to be like this downtown or this city or this city. What we're finding is this family atmosphere. And what we have with our park, our downtown being on the lake. We're getting, it just seems that's what people are seeing and saying, this is a place I can bring my family. And that may be organically, this will help kick that off, because my family, we stayed at a recent tournament in Woodstock, Georgia, Roswell, Georgia. The whole family goes. My son looks for the playground and kids to throw the football with, and we eat out every meal, and you got to find the laundromat, and you spend a lot of money, and that'll help capture the money in Ocoee as much as we can. And then we can go to other people that have projects that are approved with retail to say, look, you're going to be within a stone's throw of 4,000 people coming on the weekend. Some of the citizens of Ocoee that were around when the West Orange Girls Club used to do a lot of tournaments will know. When they were at Cisco and when they moved, they used to do a lot of tournaments, and you would have not nearly the scale this will be, but people can say, oh, I remember that. There was a lot of people, and we'll be able to capture them in there. And it also, on the Ocoee-Popka Road on the west side, we did the business character area. This fulfills a lot of that vision, because it's gonna create the need for the retail, ancillary uses. There's gonna be people, sporting goods stores, and people offer lessons and food, and all of that's gonna be one located in the area along Ocoee-Popka Road, West Road, and then we'll have a proximity to the downtown. We'll have to learn how to figure out a way to monopolize on that as well.
Great. You have a question about this? Anybody? Cool.
Good. I like it.
You do?
I like it, yes.
Oh, I thought you said you had a question.
No, I like it.
No, it's phenomenal. It's great. It's the biggest thing we've seen since,
This is really big like the mall.
yeah.
This is
small.
big, and this really has the ancillary uses. You will get families that want to locate here to be near this facility.
Great.
People will want to have, we've already got a good youth soccer, we've got a group that runs that. We've got cheer. It seems like we're getting that, not only sports, but that family oriented, and it's gonna be exciting.
For sure.
Exciting.
You want to talk about the Ocoee Village on Lakewood? And
Yes, so Ocoee Village Center, the three builders, the apartment builder, the retail builder, and the townhome builder had to take over the project in a consortium and agree on how the rest of the infrastructure will be put in and who pays what. We just are recording the plat for the townhomes this week, and so that's been holding up the townhome side. The roundabout is, Ocoee just seems to have pipes that show up that no one knows about. So there were 3 power lines and a pipe that located in where the roundabout's going. And one thing that we kind of slowed them down is we wanted to provide sewer to the GPK project down on Fuller's Cross. So they had to design a crossing. Well, then they found these lines. And so with water pipes, you've got to have clearance from other pipes. It's a DEP rule. And so that kind of, we had to hoe and hum. I went out there on a site visit and took pictures of people hoeing and humming, trying to figure out. You get 3 engineers together, you get 3 different methods. I know Jason's probably dealt with this a lot. And so, but they are out there working, and the walls are in for permitting. The townhomes will now be able to really go, and they're finishing up Lakewood. Lakewood Avenue will be finished except for 2 things. The streetlights, but Duke is gonna put them in, and initially at Claricona Ocoee, it's gonna be, on one side, it's gonna be a strain line to have the signal. The mast arm it's backward. So I wanna take over the road, you can drive on it, it'll be pretty, just won't have street lights at the beginning, and it'll have a weird wire, and we didn't forget, we didn't mess up, it's just a lot to do, we wanna open the road.
end of January?
I'm gonna tomorrow we'll get an update on that.
Is retail going to start soon?
Yes, they have the Southeast Retail, which will be a 7-Eleven and a 14,000 square foot strip building that will have it's the green side, it's a pet supermarket or something. It's the one that has the green sign. It's not
No grocery user sign yet.
So that side has to hold up because in order to make it fit, the current road that went east and west has to be vacated, but there's a strip of CFX land on each side of it. And if you vacate the road, then CFX gets it. And so there's a process to get the CFX land, then we'll be bringing the road to I think if it's an arterial road designated, we bring it to you guys, but the road will be vacated. Then they can plan on when that would be open and get a shopper. They tell me now, most likely it'll be a neighborhood market. The Winn-Dixie couldn't wait, and they went up north, just north of Apopka.
Yep. All right, anybody else have any other questions for Mike? All right, well, if that's it, then we'll see you guys in
January.
January. Are we good for a meeting in January?
We are hoping. We're hoping. We've got things, some meetings have been canceled, and we've been having to hold people back, but we were hoping to have something to you.
Okay.
We can easily have some land development code stuff, so we will
Let's
have a
do it.
meeting.
I love seeing you once a month. Anybody want to make a motion to close this out?
I'll make a motion.
Second, anybody?
Second?
Perfect. Have a great night.